It's official. A Northeast Ohioan who entered the Capitol on January 6th is a moron. She admits it. It's Today in Ohio, the news podcast discussion from cleveland.com and the Plain Dealer. I'm Chris Quinn. I am here today with Laura Johnston, Courtney Astolfi, and Lisa Garvin. I love to start a podcast talking about a self admitted moron, so let's start. A lingering mystery in Northeast Ohio is why an occupational therapist in the Cleveland schools threw it all away to be among the crazies who tried to overthrow the government on January 6th. We learned a lot about her from a 10-page letter she wrote to the judge who would sentence her, included her admission that she's a moron. Courtney, what do we know? This is one of the most insightful things we've seen to come out of this. We all wondered about the crazies. What could have infected their brains to think this was a good idea? And she really stood out because she had a great job. She's college educated. Nothing would have said that somebody with her background would be racing around the Capitol thinking that they're taking back their government. And it's almost like she woke up after a terrible hangover and is sober now, looking back, saying, "What was I thinking?" And saying to the judge, "Yeah, I completely blew this. It's wrecked my life. I don't know what I was thinking." She said, "I don't want morons running around out there," and I was a moron, which is interesting. It actually gives you some compassion, right? Because I don't know what drove people to do this. You had the demagogue of Trump rallying people to do crazy things like overthrow the government. But here she is. This is the result. She'll spend some time in prison and her life is in shambles. Yeah, I've often speculated that the reason for Trump's popularity is it was a club for people that didn't feel welcome anywhere else, and he built this community of outcasts. It was an interesting story in one of the national outlets today, looking at Lincoln through the prism of today and noting that Lincoln did not castigate the people who disagreed with him because he understood that the way to move forward is to understand them and welcome them. Her letter, I think, offers a lot of insight into what people were thinking. A fascinating story. It'll be interesting to see how the judge reacts to that. Laura, Lisa, do you have any thoughts on this one? Ju- Yeah, I mean, yeah, I know, but with how polarized the country is, I mean, how many times have we called them loonies? I've done it a million times on this podcast. I mean, it was crazy time in Washington with these people thinking they were going to take over the government. But unless we understand what they're thinking so that we can reach middle ground, we're never going to get over this polarization. This kind of a letter does give us some insight into what we have viewed for 2 years is just kooky behavior. Interesting story. It's on cleveland.com, and you're listening to Today in Ohio. We're less than 2 weeks from the midterm elections, so we asked Northeast Ohio whether they trust our election system. Lisa, what did they tell us? Well, and the Republican demagogues that keep telling people it was stolen. It remains to be seen whether the army of poll watchers that we keep hearing about will show up at the polls to interfere with people who are trying to vote. I took this as a good sign that despite 2 years of efforts to undermine our faith in elections, people largely maintain their faith in elections. We have a very strong and sound election system in this country, but it's not solid. It has some weakness in the foundation, and blame Donald Trump, blame Lindsey Graham, blame all these guys that go out and say these ridiculous things about how our elections are being stolen. You're listening to Today in Ohio. A lot of elections are determined by the turnout. If voters of one party are unexcited and stay home, the other party benefits. What do the early returns say about the largely Democratic strongholds, the cities, Laura? There ought to be concern. I mean, the numbers are significant, and it's giving hope to Lee Weingart that he can be this rare Republican that wins a countywide race. This is not new. Since Obama left office, you've seen depressed turnout in this county. We saw it last year in the mayor's race. A very small portion of the population actually chose the leader of the city. I'm surprised. I thought because there's been so much mania about this election and because of the Ryan Vance debate, the Democrats would show up, but they're obviously not as interested to judge this by previous elections. But let me stop you for a sec though. We have talked a lot about mail theft. We've had people running around with mailbox keys for years, stealing mail, taking checks. Nextdoor.com is loaded with information about how dangerous the mail is. I wonder if people are figuring, I'm going to the polls. I'm not going to trust it to get stolen in the mail. Although that was presidential, right? I mean, you're talking 2020. Well, I hope this doesn't mean that for those of us who vote at the polls on election day are going to be in long lines because all the people that didn't mail in their ballots. We'll we'll see. It's today in Ohio. Courtney, you had a hell of a story yesterday. Did Justin Bibb, the Cleveland mayor, break the law with his selections for the new police commission? The shame of this is that Bibb was the only candidate for mayor who stood firmly behind this charter question, and you would think that he would support it 100%. What they're doing is preposterous. You can't do what they're doing, so it makes you wonder: is this intentional? Because anything this commission does, if it's not composed correctly, if the police don't like the decision, they'll sue and they'll say, well, it's not even in accordance with the charter and anything it does is not legal. I just don't get it. I mean, seems like such a clear cut case. Why would they do it unless it's intentional to sabotage this commission so that the city doesn't actually have to follow it? What did Bibb have to say? Nothing, right? Because he won't respond. Yeah. Well, and this is Mark Griffin, who did not stop Bibb from marching in the municipal court to expunge thousands of marijuana records, which turned out to be illegal, and they ended up having to drop the whole thing. So maybe his legal opinion on this is as valuable as it was on that. It's a good story. Read it on cleveland.com. Glad Courtney was here to talk about it today. It's Today in Ohio. We've got a good bit of experience now with medical marijuana in Ohio. Is it working to treat things like cancer pain and post traumatic stress disorder? Lisa, what do the doctors tell us? Well, I get it that it's doctors' observations, but doctors hear from a lot of patients who have pain, and if what they do for those patients doesn't alleviate the patients raise hell. Now, the doctors also make money when people come to them to get the medical marijuana card, so I guess there's some of that. But I was fascinated by the fact that it had such a high value for cancer patients. Okay. It's today in Ohio. Does video show Shaker Heights police shot a man who was running away from them and not aiming a gun at them? Is that why the Shaker Police Department refuses to say a word about this? And where are the socially conscious Shaker Heights residents not having outrage about one, what the video shows, and two, their police department clamming up? Laura, this is a shock. Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's out of control. When you watch the video, the officer is out of control. "I'm gonna shoot you," screaming at the guy, and there doesn't appear to be any point in there where that guy aimed the gun at the officers, and then they shot him. So, okay, but the video is the video. Maybe they can justify it. They refuse to talk. Compare this to Akron, how Akron the mayor and the police got right out in front, talked in detail about it, constantly were available. The Shaker Heights police refused to say. I mean, if I lived in Shaker Heights, I'd be livid that my taxes are paying these guys and they refuse to be accountable for shooting a guy who was running away from them. Yeah, it's just one a problem. We have so many police departments in this county, and they don't have the training they need. They don't know how to be accountable. And Shaker Heights has a long history of being one of the least accessible. But this is just terrible. And I'm still surprised. Shaker Heights claims to be a socially conscious community. Why aren't they demanding answers from their elected officials? The police should not be able to hide out for a week and refuse to address this very very serious issue. Anyway, you can see the video. It's on cleveland.com. See what you think. It's today in Ohio. Remember that Cleveland area doctor who told an Ohio House committee that COVID vaccines magnetize people? Sounds like she might finally pay for her stoogery. Courtney, what's going on? Well, I'm glad they're doing something because this is embarrassing to live in Ohio and have an official hearing where an Ohio doctor gets up and says that nonsense. It was covered everywhere. It was just one of the more ridiculous things. You wondered what the legislature was thinking, allowing somebody that out there to give official testimony because these are supposed to be hearings in which you collect facts, and here you have somebody talking about cell towers and magnetism. I mean, she may as well have been wearing an aluminum foil hat. So I'm glad to hear that the people who license doctors are alarmed and are going at it. And I can't wait to see how this one comes out. There is a time when people who do bad things face the music. It's Today in Ohio. We're going to say goodbye to Courtney because she wants to get out and cover some news. Thank you very much, Courtney. Has a Northeast Ohio startup found the solution to the oft reported truck driver shortage in the workings of dating apps? Lisa, this is an unusual story. Yeah, it's a cool story. Really, whenever those kind of things pop up, you just go, huh, had no idea. So it's on cleveland.com. It's Today in Ohio. We got one more. Why did a warship enter the port of Cleveland this week? And what does it have to do with baseball? Laura, one of the more unusual visitors to our lakeshore. Yeah, the picture of it, it's not the kind of thing you normally see on our shores. We don't have battles of Lake Erie anymore. So it was, but the whole thing where they've got all the baseball Hall of Fame plaques all over it. There's going to be another one of these built that's actually named the USS Cleveland, right? Okay. It's Today in Ohio. We're done for the week. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Lisa. Thanks to the departed Courtney. Thanks to everybody who listens. We'll be back Monday with another discussion of the news.